Welcome back everyone to the channel where we break down all the biggest Dallas Cowboys news, rumors, and inside updates you need to know. Today we've got a jam-packed story that Cowboys Nation has been waiting to hear about, and it centers around Trevon Diggs, Micah Parsons, roster moves, and one very interesting new name in the mix, Phil Mafah. If you are a diehard Cowboys fan, you'll want to stick around for every second of this video, because the news we have today could have a major impact on how this team looks heading into the season, how the defense shapes up, and even how the Cowboys front office handles the next wave of roster cuts. And let's be honest, anytime we're talking about Trevon Diggs and Micah Parsons, we're talking about the very foundation of this Dallas defense. Add in the fact that roster cut-down day is always filled with drama, emotions, and shocking surprises, and this is going to be one of those updates you don't want to miss. Now, let's start with the headline news that has Cowboys fans breathing a collective sigh of relief. Trevon Diggs, who has been one of the most dominant ball-hawking cornerbacks in the NFL, finally has an injury update that is nothing short of great news for Dallas. After suffering a devastating injury last season that left the defense scrambling to adjust without his presence on the field, there was understandable concern about whether he would be able to come back to full strength and regain that elite form that makes him one of the best corners in the game. Reports coming out now are extremely positive, saying Diggs is ahead of schedule, looking sharp in workouts, and moving with the kind of quickness and agility that Cowboys Nation has been praying for. It's not just that he's back, it's that he's looking like himself again, and that has massive implications for Dan Quinn's defense. Without Diggs last season, we saw the Cowboys defense still play at a high level, thanks in large part to Stephon Gilmore stepping in and Darren Bland's breakout season. But make no mistake, Diggs changes everything. His ability to erase half the field, to bait quarterbacks into throws they shouldn't make, and to flip momentum instantly with interceptions, is something few defenses in the league can replicate. The fact that he's trending towards being ready for Week 1 is one of the best possible storylines we could have hoped for. When you combine Trevon Diggs' return with Micah Parsons' continued dominance, the Cowboys' defense starts looking scary again. But speaking of Parsons, there have been some concerns about his health and his readiness too. Micah is the heartbeat of this defense, the engine that makes the entire unit go. He's been dealing with some bumps and bruises during camp, and fans have been holding their breath every time there's news about him. The good news here is that while the Cowboys are being careful with him, the latest updates suggest there's no serious concern about his availability. They're simply managing his workload, making sure he doesn't get overworked in camp, and ensuring that he's at full strength when the regular season kicks off. The Cowboys know how important Parsons is not just as a pass rusher, but as a tone setter, a leader, and a guy who completely changes what opposing offenses can do. The plan is clear: don't risk him in meaningless situations, save him for when it matters most, and let him unleash havoc once the games count. Cowboys fans have seen him change games single-handedly, and with the way he keeps adding new dimensions to his game, whether lining up as an edge rusher, blitzing from the linebacker spot, or even dropping into coverage when necessary, his presence is invaluable. Now, while Trevon Diggs and Micah Parsons provide the star power, the Cowboys are also dealing with another part of the season that often gets overlooked but is just as important: roster cuts. This is the time of year where tough decisions are made, careers can change in an instant, and the coaching staff has to balance potential, experience, and immediate needs. And one of the biggest stories coming out of camp right now is the potential rise of Phil Mafah. For those who may not be familiar, Phil Mafah has been turning heads with his play, showing flashes of being a real contributor and making a strong case to carve out a spot on this roster. What makes him so intriguing is the combination of size, athleticism, and versatility he brings. In a roster room that's filled with competition and guys fighting for every last opportunity, Mafah has managed to stand out, and that's saying something. The Cowboys coaching staff has been impressed, and he's quickly become a name to watch as cut-down day approaches. This brings us to the tough reality of roster management. For every player who emerges and surprises the coaching staff, there's another who might be on the bubble, facing the possibility of being let go. It's never an easy part of the NFL, and for Cowboys fans, it means saying goodbye to players you may have rooted for or seen potential in. But the NFL is a business, and the front office has to make choices that give this team the best chance to win. Some names being floated as potential cut candidates may surprise fans, and it's important to remember that preseason and training camp performances matter a lot in this process. Coaches are looking at not just who performs in games, but who practices hard, who learns the playbook, and who fits the culture they're building. Phil Mafah's rise is directly tied to this, because every rep he takes, every big play he makes, could be pushing someone else closer to the edge of the roster bubble. Now, think about what it means if Trevon Diggs comes back healthy, Micah Parsons is fully unleashed, and a young player like Mafah finds his role on this team. Suddenly, the Cowboys aren't just talking about having a good defense, they're talking about having one of the most complete, dynamic units in the NFL. And when you add in the offensive firepower of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Tony Pollard, this team starts to look like a real contender again. The NFC is wide open, and Dallas knows that this might be one of their best windows to make a serious Super Bowl run. The importance of keeping their stars healthy, making smart roster decisions, and finding those hidden gems who can contribute right away cannot be overstated. Cowboys Nation, this is the kind of news cycle that reminds us why we follow every update so closely. Injuries can derail a season in the blink of an eye, and having Trevon Diggs trending in the right direction is the difference between having a good defense and having a potentially elite one. Managing Micah Parsons' workload now ensures he'll be ready to dominate when the games really matter. And keeping an eye on players like Phil Mafah during the cut-down process shows us that this roster is always evolving, always looking for the next player who can step up and make an impact. So buckle up, because the next couple of weeks are going to be crucial for the Cowboys. The preseason games, the practices, the injury updates, and the roster cuts will all shape how this team looks in Week 1 and beyond. For now, though, Cowboys fans can take a deep breath and smile, because the Trevon Diggs news is the best kind of news you can get. Micah Parsons is going to be ready to go, and the competition on this roster is bringing out the best in everyone. That's the formula for a dangerous football team. Thanks for tuning in today and staying locked in on all things Cowboys. We'll continue to follow every update closely and bring you the latest as it happens. If you're excited about seeing Trevon Diggs back on the field, if you're ready for Micah Parsons to dominate again, and if you're curious to see who survives roster cuts and who doesn't, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single Cowboys update. This season is shaping up to be one filled with drama, excitement, and hopefully, a whole lot of winning.